So I got asked last time at the track how I glue my tires and what tip I use on my bottle of glue. And lately I have just been using the glue straight out of the bottle. But if you do use tips, you can use either the 1UP Racing metal tips or any of the brands out there that have metal tips. Sweep Racing has glue that you can buy that comes with a metal tip already, and I'll link that for you. And they also sell metal tips in there. And part of the discussion on what tips I use was the racer that asked me said that they get sometimes glue dry in the tip and glue stops coming out, and they had to use like a wire or something to get the dry glue out. The metal tips, what you can do with those is just do a quick burn from a lighter on it, just to burn the dried up glue out of there. And all it takes is a quick second, and it just burns it right off, and it sparks right out the tip. I don't have a metal tip available right now to show that. But you can do that. It's really easy. It's not that big of a deal. What I do, how I prep my tires and my wheels is, as you saw in the sped up video, I'll use a microfiber cloth of some kind. I like the ones you can get from Walmart. They're cheap and they do the job, and you get a bunch of them at the time. What you saw me using was a J Concept one. I couldn't find my Walmart one. I don't know where it's at. But I'll rub the bead 2 or 3 times around each side of the tire with just some 91% rubbing alcohol. If I'm doing a Proline tire, or Proline tires in general seem to like being cleaned first with alcohol and then with some Simple Green, and that makes the rubber of the tire a little bit more pliable, and it sticks a little better. I use a Raceform tire jig for all my tires. I put my tire band on my tire before I do anything with it. And then once I line the tire up and I get it set, I do run it a couple times to try to set the bead a little bit better. I don't always get great beads when I do tires, so I do this to just try to make sure the bead is set. I've been using AKA glue recently. I cut the tip down on the bottle to try to get a metal tip fit, and it didn't work. And this is what I'm left with now, but still works great. I'll drop a couple of drops of glue into the bead, and then I tilt my jig downwards at an angle, and then I pull the tire towards me. It's still in the same direction it tells you to use on the jig, but I do this because it allows me to watch the glue to move through the bead. And what I don't have with me is a paper towel or a napkin or something to dab glue on out of the bead. Something I picked up watching other racers do it, and all it really does is just help you to get the glue from around the bead off of it, and it makes a cleaner looking tire. But what I'm looking for here is I'm looking for the glue to keep going down in the bead just to make sure it sets. And when it stops flowing into the next part of the bead that I expose to the jig, I'll add a drop or two as I go. And that's just to make sure that I have a continuous line of glue on there. The glues I have liked have been the AKA glue. I'm on the AKA glue train now. Thank you, Tyler Hooks, for mentioning that. And me just trying it and discovering that it is probably one of the better glues. Proline glue is really good as well. I'm moving away from the J Concepts glue specifically because of the jig, or this jig in general. If you have one that exposes all the bead at once, the J Concepts glue should be fine. It's just a really thin glue, and using this jig, what I've discovered is that it glues just the top half of the bead and not the entire bead all the way around the tire. And that's just probably because of me, but that's my experience with it. So I would not recommend J Concepts glue with the Raceform jig. I would recommend either the Proline or the AKA. I have yet to try sweep glue, and that's just because I haven't needed any glue. So I will have a review on that to come later. And then once you get to the end of the bead, I always try to let the glue run down the outside of the tire a little bit. And this is where the paper towel would come in. And once it stops gluing off, I would just take it and I'd dab it on the paper towel real quick and pull it off. I don't have the back side of a tire yet, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause here. I'm going to do the rest of the outside of the other sets, and then I'll come back and I'll show the other side. So for this side, I got my paper towel. And like I was saying, I don't always get good beads. Like this is actually a pretty good bead. This one here, I got a little bit of warp here, and I got a little bit of warp on another one I did. You can cut that down by making sure that there's no flashing on the bead of the tire itself, going a little bit slower with the jig, just letting it set a little bit more, position of the bands. Admittedly, I'm pretty lazy about checking the flashing of my bead, and that's something I need to get better at. These tires should be fine. I mean, even as a practice tire, I wouldn't use them at a big race like Southern Nats or RC Pro or anything like that, which I think I'm sadly going to miss RC Pro Finals. I wanted to go down to Thornhill and run RC Pro Finals, but I think we're going to miss that because entries are full, and people are going to pay to do that. But this is the other side of the bead, and process is pretty much the same. It's a little bit more difficult because it's on the inside. But again, I just run it a couple of times through the jig, make sure the bead is good, a couple of drops of glue at start, and the process repeats the same. The reason why I find this side a little bit more difficult is just, I don't think I have, it feels like I don't have the same amount of space as I do on the other side to work with things. And it's probably just because I'm seeing the emptiness of the tire here, the wheel. And it's just a spatial thing. So it's probably just a mind game that I do with myself. But I wanted to do the other side in regular speed to show you that the paper towel works on both sides. And I think I have a wheel I can grab real quick once I'm done with this that I can show you what it looks like whenever you paper towel both sides. The most challenging part of gluing tires is just being patient. The jig definitely helps. It helps a lot. I want to try the other type of jig just to see which one I would like the most. But again, I think having the clamp type jig would work best with a thinner glue, because then you just put 4, 5, 6 drops in one part of the bead and roll the entire tire. But I do the same thing here. Any excess glue, after I seal the bead, I let it run down a little bit. That's not going much further, so I'm just going to take it, stab it on the paper towel, pull it off, and it makes a nice seal. And then this guy here has been glued already and paper toweled on both sides, so there's not a lot of excess glue anywhere. But that's the process. So if you want to see more of these, just go ahead and smash the like button and tickle the subscribe one, and I'll try to get more of these kind of videos that I do out. I'll do a review of the Sweep Racing glue once I get some. Thanks for watching, guys.